Hey guys, welcome to my brand new channel, Nihongo Oji, or Nihongo Oji. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that in English. But anyways, I made this brand new channel to help you learn Japanese. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Alex. I've been living in Japan for 8 years. I've given talks. I've been on Japanese TV speaking fully Japanese. Almost all the work I do is in Japanese, and so I've gotten pretty good at it. I'm pretty confident at it by now. But I always get asked by friends, family, people online, what's the best way to learn Japanese? How did you get so proficient? What textbooks should I use? There are all these kinds of questions which I basically want to answer by making this channel. I know learning Japanese can be daunting. I know it can be hard, but together we will get you there. Actually, by now I can speak five and a half languages. Well, I'm learning my 6th technically. So I know how to learn a language and I know we'll get you there. So it's a little early, but subscribe to this channel, follow along, and let's get your Japanese in tip-top shape. To start, I want to introduce my own Japanese language journey. What got me to the point where I can talk as good as I can? As good as I can, as well as I can, I guess. I guess I can't speak English too well anymore for any grammar people out there. I usually just put out a short reel on this page and the Instagram page that I have under the same name, Nihongo Oji. Please follow that as well, where I shared my Japanese language journey, but in really small steps. So I want to use this video to expand on what that journey was actually like. I first started studying Japanese in college. I actually went to UCLA, and while I was first studying biology, I was undeclared in the life sciences. I also realized that learning language was fun. And so I always wanted to learn a language that was completely different from English, completely different from French, Spanish, all the Latin languages that I knew. And so I was like, okay, that leaves, Arabic, Korean, Chinese, Japanese as like the big contenders that are often said to be the hardest languages for native English speakers to learn. I had a few Japanese friends, and so I was like, it seems fun. Why not do Japanese? Now, actually, I guess I'm pretty rare in that I didn't get into studying Japanese because I liked anime or because I liked manga, things like that. I actually knew next to nothing about Japanese culture. I just thought it might be fun, and so I started studying. Well, I actually started taking the class at UCLA while doing my biology degree on the side. So that led me to using the Genki textbooks, both Genki textbook 1, number 2, and then we did some other textbooks after that. Because long story short, I loved studying Japanese so much more than all those chemistry classes and biology classes. I actually still do love biology, but eventually what started off as a joke about me switching my majors to Japanese actually became reality, and I did it. I went full plunge. My 3rd year at UCLA, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's change my major to Japanese, and I ended up studying that full time, which of course, helps a lot with studying Japanese, but I don't think it's necessary to get you speaking at a good level. But step 1 was definitely that. Studying using a textbook-based approach, using the Genki textbooks and getting through all of that material. Easier said than done. There were many times where I fell behind in class, and even though I loved studying Japanese, the course material, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to learn a language like Japanese if it's your first time and you're not familiar with other East Asian languages. So it can be pretty hard, but as long as you stick with it, study well, study good, and hopefully if you have the chance to visit Japan, that'll boost your Japanese to the next level. So don't give up, stick with it. That was the first step I took in my Japanese journey. Now, even though nowadays I can speak Japanese super well, I don't want to say super well, but I'm pretty confident in my Japanese abilities nowadays. It wasn't always the case. People think that maybe I'm like I have a thing for languages or I'm a language genius or something like that. That's not the case at all. In fact, the first 2 years, almost 3 years that I was studying Japanese, I couldn't say a word nearly. I really struggled to even introduce myself, and then, I could introduce myself, but I struggled to go from there. Like, what do I talk about? How do I say things? Like, I really couldn't form sentences in my mind, and so it was really hard to hold a conversation. And that felt bad. That sucked because, my family would always push me to try to say a few words here and there in Japanese whenever we met Japanese people so I could practice, but, the words, like everything just got stuck up here and never came out. And I think the reason for that is that I had very little practice in native Japanese settings, speaking with native Japanese people, which is, I think, one of the things that textbooks often get a bad rap about is that people say, oh, if you just study from the textbooks, you'll never be able to actually learn to speak the language. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. Because you see, even though I had a lot of trouble speaking, I actually did have a lot of knowledge about Japanese. I knew all these grammar points. I knew all these words. It was just, kind of hard to piece it all together and to think about all these things on the fly and to conjugate the verbs, the te form, do all that stuff. But the good news is that by studying through the textbooks, you're not wasting your time. You're actually getting a really great base so that for after when you finally do start speaking, you'll hit a home run and you'll be set. You'll be ready to go. So what changed and what finally allowed me to speak? It was actually when we had a few exchange students come visit the campus. I think it was just about a day, and they were looking for people to show them around. And I, being a studious person, somewhat, I was like, sure, I'll volunteer. I'll participate in this program to help show these students around. That sounds like fun. So my friends were doing it too. It sounded like a good time. Little did I know that that would be an experience that would change the course of my Japanese studying from here on out. That was the first day when I realized a lot of these exchange students, I believe they were studying English, but they were also, pretty shy. They couldn't speak English that well either. So that kind of pushed me to want to show them around in Japanese. And as we were walking by the library, I remember being, I know how to say left. Left is hidari. And then I know how to say library. Library is toshokan. So maybe if I say hidari wa toshokan desu, I was like, whoa, I just made my first fully original sentence in Japanese to these people in this native setting. And I was so proud of myself. It was a small victory after 2 years, but that's kind of what unlocked the floodgates. You know what I'm saying? After I made that sentence, it just gave me a confidence and an ability, a willingness to challenge myself more and to say different things. So that pushed me to try to talk with these students more and be like, konnichiwa, hajimemashite, Alex desu, things like that, and try to start a conversation. O genki desu ka? Really simple stuff, but it worked. It just gave me the momentum to keep going. Yushiere, my university. Yushiere wa suki desu ka? Watashi wa 3年生です. Oh man, what good memories. That first day is what really gave me the confidence. And then what was even more important is that I exchanged contact information. We basically became pen pals, right? With these Japanese students, we exchanged Line, which if you don't know is a communication app. It's a WhatsApp that's basically used all the time in Japan. And I started messaging these students a lot, just for fun, being like, oh, yeah, what are you doing in LA? I want to go to Japan, things like that. And I was messaging these students in Japanese, trying to use as much kanji as I could. But the thing is, if you know kanji is really hard. And even though you're able to send something that you know yourself, you're guaranteed to have like 10 different kanjis that you don't know come back in the replying message. So, while that might be disheartening to some, to me it was like, oh, actually this is a great opportunity to learn natural Japanese. And so I started looking up all these kanjis that I didn't know. And that led me to realize that, wait, I actually did know them. Or at least I knew the words. I just didn't know the readings. I just didn't know that these words were written with these kanjis. One thing led to another, and your brain just makes more and more connections. And you suddenly realize one day that, oh, you're messaging these people every day. The same words start to come up every day. It's like we're having nearly identical conversations, but with slight variations, like talking about the weather, talking about trips, talking about what someone likes. You realize that most of the day-to-day Japanese you'll be using is actually mostly the same thing. So the more you get comfortable with that, the more you're able to hold regular conversations with people, and it feels really good. That was when I made even more friends at UCLA who spoke Japanese, started joining club activities, making connections there, and practicing my Japanese when we were hanging out. Sometimes I'd help them with their English, they'd help me with my Japanese. It was a great win-win situation. So that was the third year of my Japanese studying. It was really just having all these speaking and writing partners that really helped push me to the next level. And the fact that I also visited Japan for about a week or 2 weeks during summer break, that also brought me back up to speed. I was falling behind in class, but that Japan trip, it caught me up again a little and gave me more motivation as well to just keep going and do my best. So year 3, I'm talking with all those people. I remember driving and trying to speak in Japanese, and that being super dangerous because you probably know this learning language, but when you think in another language a lot, it actually takes a lot of brain processing power. Like you actually get tired mentally from speaking a language that you're learning a lot, right? And so that was kind of dangerous. I'm like trying to speak in Japanese, but gotta watch the road and everything. So I kind of stopped that for a bit. But yeah, that's eventually what got me a lot more fluent. And then I'm not gonna lie, the best way to get even more fluent is to start dating someone who, even though they speak English, they'll speak Japanese with you a lot. That helps a lot. And I did start dating this Japanese speaking girl, eventually decided to move to Japan for 3 to 6 months to see how I liked it, to see if there were any opportunities for me there. I wanted at that point to experience living in a foreign country because I thought to myself, that's probably only something that I'll really be willing to do when I'm younger, right? So might as well just go. Eventually, I ended up staying there for way longer. I've been here for 8 years now, and this is my new home. This is my base. This is where I want to live in the future. Of course, I love visiting my hometown of LA. I love traveling. And so I'd love to be out of Japan for a few months out of the year if possible, working remotely. That would be the best, right? But Japan, I think, is a great place to live. So comfortable, so convenient, so nice. And learning Japanese, that's your key to getting that life you've always dreamed of here. So let's do it together. I'll help you out. Keep following this channel. That was my journey of learning Japanese. There's a lot more details here and there that I didn't get to go over. I did some summer internships where I also came to Japan for about a month at a time, and I always stayed longer so I could hang out a bit more, get more familiar with language. That helps so much. But of course, that's pretty obvious after, the more time you spend in Japan, the better you'll become at Japanese. Though I will say that I have met a lot of people here that even though they've been here for a long time, their Japanese kind of stagnates at a certain point just because either you come to Japan and you work an English-speaking job where you don't get to practice Japanese that much, or people kind of just stop studying after a certain point, which is totally fine once you've reached a certain level of fluency, right? Really all depends on your goals and what you want to do with the limited time that you have. But you might think that just by living in Japan, you'll automatically get better in Japanese, which I find is not necessarily true, right? By studying Japanese a bit on your own end, and by living in Japan and trying to use the new things that you've learned, that's how you'll really get better at Japanese. And of course, by liking this video, commenting, and subscribing to the channel, because I will be bringing you a lot more content, a lot more tips and tricks, a lot more insights into just my life here in Japan. There are so many experiences I wanted to share with you, but I felt that I couldn't do that on my previous YouTube channel, which was more all in Japanese and everything. So that's why I created this channel, so I could put out more of this content to you. Let me know if this was useful to you. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll see you guys next time. Mata ne!